What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Superhero Central, and with She-Hulk coming out on Disney Plus on August 17th, we thought it would be a great idea to go over the origin of She-Hulk from Marvel Comics. She-Hulk's first appearance in the comics was in 1980 in Savage She-Hulk #1. Her name is Jennifer Walters, and her parents are Elaine Ann Banner Walters and William Morris Walters. Her dad, William, is a sheriff in LA County, and her mom was originally killed by the villain Nicholas Trask. Now, her story kind of changes a little bit in the comics, but most of this remains the same. Jennifer was born in LA and had a strong urge for justice and intelligence, so she ended up graduating in law from UCLA. This leads to her becoming a marvelous attorney, but also leads her to becoming She-Hulk. Bruce Banner was spiraling with the fact that he was the Hulk and had no one to talk to about it, so he remembers his cousin Jen and how she would be the perfect one to help him relieve some of the stress with his secret. He did indeed make it to her and tell her that he was the Hulk, and Jen embraced Bruce. However, not too long after their meeting, Jennifer was shot by hired thugs from Nicholas Trask. Nicholas tried having Jen killed because she was defending a client who was at odds with him. Jennifer was shot by them and nearly killed, and would have died if it wasn't for Bruce, her cousin. Bruce takes her away from the two thugs and stumbles upon a doctor's office. He sees that she is dying and makes the decision that they will give her a blood transfusion with his own blood to save her life. He is successful, but consequences follow. Jennifer returns to her hospital bed, and the thugs come back to finish the job, but they are greeted by a much more greener appearance from Jennifer. Jennifer turns into her Hulk form and is able to stop the thugs from getting away. The actual name of She-Hulk came from these first villains that saw her and fought against her. What came to their minds of describing her was She-Hulk, and she went on to like that name and used it. Now, She-Hulk is obviously very similar to her cousin, Bruce Banner, in Hulk form. And even if you take away the gamma radiation and their Hulk forms, Jen and Bruce themselves are very intelligent people, Bruce being an incredible scientist and Jennifer a monster in law. Now, Jennifer is able to eventually control herself a lot better than the Hulk could initially, and she accepts her Hulk side as being not a separate part, but a piece of her whole self. She welcomes the Hulk side of herself and goes out in public and lives a good part of life in Hulk form. She eventually is able to actually control when she can switch to She-Hulk at will, since she was saved by Michael Morbius from a blood disease. Sad to see that probably won't ever happen in the MCU. There's sadly probably no Morbin time. But moving on, it's also good to know that Jennifer doesn't lose her smarts as she transforms into She-Hulk, unlike her fellow cousin, Bruce Banner, who initially could not accomplish this feat. That's not to say that she can't rage out and Hulk smash like Banner at times. Her emotions are heightened as She-Hulk, and that can influence the level of power since she can go on a collected rampage, if you will. So almost needless to say, she has incredible strength, which can help her to jump crazy distances like we have seen from the Hulk in the MCU. She has outstanding endurance, superhuman healing, and durability. She even practices regularly fighting skills like martial arts and boxing. One thing also to be mentioned as a differentiator for She-Hulk and the regular Hulk is that She-Hulk is more contained and doesn't need to destroy everything in her path to get her objective, unlike some other green guy that we know, cough cough, Bruce Banner. She-Hulk is very agile, and although she can completely destroy nearly almost anything in her path, she can avoid doing so with her level of agility by maneuvering around obstacles without smashing them to bits. And now, you may not know this, but there are multiple and alternate forms of She-Hulk, but not all are Jennifer Walters, so let's talk about Red She-Hulk and how this version came to be. This Red She-Hulk is not Jennifer Walters, but is Betty Ross, who many might know as the love of Bruce Banner's life. And she dies in the comics due to her exposure to gamma radiation, but then was resurrected and brought back as Red She-Hulk by some villains. Red She-Hulk has crossed fists with Jennifer She-Hulk and almost killed her at one point, but the two eventually make amends towards one another. Now, She-Hulk has teamed up with a lot of superhero teams like the Fantastic Four, the Avengers, and the Defenders, and even teaming up with the Skrull, Jacinda, as bounty hunters. When she was a part of the Fantastic Four, she even dated Wyatt Wingfoot. It's also good to know that in general, she actually dated around a little bit, and one of her boyfriends was actually Thor. But at the time that she was with the Fantastic Four, one of the battles they fought actually made her unable to change back into her human form. But from this incident, we learned that Jennifer actually prefers her green side, but she is eventually able to turn back into her regular human self. Jennifer also eventually moves to New York to take on super cases and defend fellow superheroes in court, while mostly remaining in her She-Hulk form. Now, when it comes to the law and following the law, She-Hulk is pretty much black and white, but she can also go to her gray side, quite literally. When she found out her cousin Bruce Banner died by the bow of Hawkeye in the Second Civil War, Jennifer's mind was distraught. It also didn't help that she was previously severely wounded in battle with Thanos when they tried to ambush him with the help of the Ulysses. These events are what would lead Jennifer Walters to change into the Gray She-Hulk, and in this form, she is by far way more savage than when she is in her Green Hulk form. So we'll have to see how her origin plays out in the MCU as She-Hulk comes out on Disney+. In the meantime, let us know what you think about her origin and what you would like to see in the She-Hulk series coming out on August 17th on Disney+. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe for more content, and as always, thank you for stopping by Superhero Central.